Hey guys, my name's Sarah and I'm doing this week's Wiki, which is on social surveillance. So I'm going to be talking about kind of how social surveillance, that society has changed the way it has been used and kind of uses it in a good way to better society, and we've technically changed the meaning of it. So when you're thinking about the word surveillance in general, it tends to have this negative connotation towards it, like you're spying on someone else or a corporation is spying on someone else. So the difference between typical surveillance and social surveillance, when you think of typical surveillance, that is a large organizational company spying on an individual if they're doing something bad to try to get information out of it. And it's thought to be between organizational entities and individuals. This differs from social surveillance because the power relationship is more mutual because the two individuals know that they'll be looking at each other's information and there's not this power imbalance like there is in typical surveillance. So social surveillance is seen as this mutual relationship according to the Surveillance in Society reading by Marwick. I think that because social surveillance is more of this mutual process that occurs especially on social media, it shouldn't be viewed in a negative light, but rather it has been turned into something good and useful for society. So again, my argument is that society has basically changed the meaning of surveillance and we can use it for better to promote a positive experience from it. So this kind of leads me into my first point, talking about the domestication of surveillance, which came from the reading that we read on Tuesday. And in class we talked about the steps in domestication and how we change things like technology to fit into our daily lives. So in Leslie Haddon's reading of Domestication Analysis, it talks about how objectification, which is how the product was scheduled into people's daily lives. For example, when we use the cell phone example, when you wake up and you check your social media, that's not the original use of a cell phone, but we have kind of domesticated it to be that use for us. So when thinking about this with social surveillance, the original intent was not to be used to check your friends' social media accounts like Twitter and Facebook and to look through their pictures, see what they're tagged in, see what their statuses are, and see what they're up to. That wasn't the original use, but it has become an essential part of our daily lives. So we've kind of changed the meaning of surveillance and kind of fit it into what we see as acceptable to use. So I know they use some examples in the text like lurking and spying and stuff like that. So lurking people's stuff on Facebook and Twitter has really changed the meaning of surveillance, and I think that this can be a positive thing. So towards the end of the reading, it talked about the positives of social surveillance, and there was a specific quote that I really liked, and it said that social surveillance serves to create and maintain emotional connections between members of the community. So if you're at Stetson and you were on Instagram and a person pops up that you don't really know, and you're curious and you're looking through their pictures and looking through what they're up to, you're not doing that with the intent of spying on them. You're doing that, or you're not trying to get dirt on them. What you're doing is you're kind of trying to maintain this social relationship with them by wanting to be informed of these Stetson community members around you. So it's really just kind of more curious. And also in this reading, I don't know how to say his name, Al Bruxlund, he argues that surveillance can be positive, playful, and participatory, so that you're using social media to learn more about your friends and your classmates. So going more into this, one thing that I thought was a good example that reinforced the positives of social media was how people monitor each other's accounts on social media, specifically in sororities, which I think is a good example to use. And it helps them look out for their future as well as for jobs. So in sororities on campus, specifically mine, there is a position where it's their job to go and look at different girls in that organization's social media accounts to make sure they're not associating alcohol with them in their pictures or doing anything that kind of puts a bad image on the sorority that they associate themselves with. So it's their job to monitor these accounts, specifically on Instagram, to make sure that they are not posting anything that will create a bad image for the chapter. So in doing this, the person is ultimately looking out for their future and for their Stetson career. And also, that just helps in general. You shouldn't be posting pictures like that for the future, because future employers and jobs will look at your social media accounts. So this clearly is a form of gazing or creeping, like it talked about in the reading, because this person is going onto other people's accounts and lurking their information, looking at their photos and kind of monitoring it. So they are creeping, like Marwick says, but as a result of it, I think that people start to self-monitor their actions online, and then they themselves maintain this desired balance between publicity and seclusion, which is something that Marwick also mentioned. So social surveillance, whether it's done by you personally or by a member or friend in your organization or sorority, we have domesticated it to become a positive tool for maintaining our self-image. So it just goes back to showing that we've domesticated social surveillance to kind of fit into our daily lives and ultimately, I think, help create a more positive image for ourselves that will just help us in the future. So pretty much to sum up my argument, I think it's because of domestication that we have changed the meaning of surveillance, and that technology has changed it into something good and positive that we can see in the social aspect. We use this in our everyday lives, and it's easy and convenient way to connect with people and even maintain those social online relationships, while also being able to hold your friends and yourself accountable.